A very good morning to everyone present with us. I'm Damin from the marketing team at Interview Mocha, and we're really excited to have you join us for this webinar. Before I can move on to introducing our panelists, I wanted to share a couple pointers with you to ensure each of us have a smooth webinar experience. If we could just move over to the options. Yeah. So you have the chat option, which you can use to send chats to the panelists at any time. You can raise your hand in the webinar at any point if you need anything from the host. At the end of this webinar, we will be opening up the Q&A section where panelists will be replying back to any of the questions that you raised. They can either reply back via chat or they will reply your questions live. Now moving on to our panelists. Our Head of Marketing, Sai Ram Krishnan, will be interviewing Dr. Sonal Modi, who is the Director of Learning and Development at Fiserv. She has more than 22 years experience across the IT, service, technology, and now product industry. She has driven learning at organization various levels by implementing digital learning platforms, institutionalizing learnability index in the organization, propagate learning culture, developing skill heat maps and skill metrics. We are so glad you could take the time to join us today, Dr. Sonal. We are looking forward to your insights. Let's start.
Right. Thanks, Damin. Thanks, Damin. And hello, Doctor. Glad to have you on board. Like the first thing that I would like to say is that there are at this point of time, especially when everybody's talking about upskilling and digital transformation. For us, it's a privilege to be talking to somebody this experience because we need, and at this point of time, the world needs this kind of expertise. We guess. Before we move on to the first question, I'm Sai Ram Krishnan. I lead marketing at Interview Mocha, the company that's bringing you, this webinar. We are an enterprise skill assessment company, and we have a set of skills that people can use to test their candidates on, and we have a lot of offerings for HR, learning and development, and diversity professionals, and we would love for you to come check us out at interviewmocha.com. But for now, I'm really excited to have this conversation, especially because I'll tell you this. I mean, we work in this domain, but talking to the good doctor has made us aware of how much we don't know. So very happy to start this off. Okay, doctor. I just want to begin with something that's very basic for all of us, especially for professionals who are just starting out. There is so much literature and research available right now. Everybody's talking about upskilling, right? Notwithstanding, what's going on in the world right now, why do you think upskilling is important at all in an organization at any level?
Right. Thank you for asking that question, Sai. And this question actually is very close to my heart because if you look at it, the organizational success primarily thrives, in fact, clearly thrives on two fundamental pillars. One is the customer, the client, and the kind of offerings that we give to our customer. And second, and the most important piece is the talent in the organization. Unless and until you look at, these two pillars, it is definitely not possible for you to run your business. And when I talk about customers, they are going to be with you throughout your life as much as you are going to provide them solutions which will give them a competitive edge. They'll be happy when you understand their business, their domain.
Yeah,
yeah. Is there
just a second, doctor. Yeah, I think a panel, some of the attendees can't hear properly. Perhaps we could speak up a little bit. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Just hold on.
If you could just repeat that last bit, I think that's the portion we missed. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yeah, doctor.
Yeah.
That's much better.
Okay, great. So I was saying that the two important pillars for where the organization clearly thrives on. One is the customer and the client experience that we give to our customer, and second is our talent. When I talk about customers or client or the client experience, your solutions, which will give them a competitive edge in the market, is definitely going to make them happy, right? What are you going to understand about their domain? How well do you understand them? How do you understand the criticality? How do you understand the customer base of your of your customers that give you projects or assignments? Plays a very pivotal role for an organization, because that's the success that you're going to bring, the value proposition that will bring to the customers. When it comes to the talent, you will make them happy when you're giving them upskilling channel to continuously develop themselves, to ensure that they are at the cutthroat competition. You have an environment which will help them to continuously grow, have a career advancement. And upskilling primarily is also kind of future proofing your task force. If you don't do that, it is very difficult for you to grow as an organization, very clearly, right? And therefore, there is no two things to it, but upskilling definitely is very important, and it needs to be a continuous process.
Right, doctor. What I'm, the next thing I would want to ask, in this same vein is, now that you say that it's so important, like, are there any best practices at all, like for identifying existing skill matrices in an organization, skill gaps? And once that is done, what should be the next steps in terms of the organization? Like, is there some kind of a checklist that, organizations can look at or they can adopt or anything?
If you look at the sequence, you cannot come to a skill matrix or a skill taxonomy, or for that matter, a skill heat map directly. It's a very structured process of upskilling, and it has to be ingrained as a cultural value of the organization. It has to become the DNA of the organization. Okay? And that's where we say that learning culture. If the organization hosts or possesses or thrives on learning culture, it becomes easy for doing the rest of the things in terms of upskilling. Okay? And how do you bring in that learning culture? How do you actually bring in that mindset? What are the things that you're going to consider while you are going to bring upskilling programs will play a very, very pivotal role over here. Upskilling is not one of its kind of stuff that, a business comes and tells you that I want to upskill 200 people or 20 people or 30 people. No, that's a normal training need identification where a person has to be trained and then put on the job. Upskilling is a strategic initiative that organizations take, and it needs a very detailed understanding of your business domain, your landscape that the organization is going to work on. What are the kind of future opportunities in store for the business? What kind of demand that you see? What kind of technology demand do you see? Product demand do you see? Domain demand do you see? And then basis that, the learning and development team has to integrally partner with the business to understand all of this and then think and strategize and upskilling for them. It's not about somebody giving you an order and then you take it up and then you just deliver it as one of its kind. No, definitely not. Upskilling is a whole lot more than that. It's a very structured process. It's a deep dwelling process wherein you definitely need to look and understand. So one point I want to make very clear to all those people who are present, and primarily I think they are from the L&D fraternity, is if you want to do upskilling, or if you want to look at how do you give career advancement to your task force, or how do you actually ensure that your developer community is growing continuously, or your other kind of fraternity is growing continuously, it is very important for you to first understand the business nuances. If you don't understand the domain, if you don't understand the lingo, if you don't partner, if you don't understand what's happening in the business on day-to-day life, forget about even creating an upskilling kind of an initiative or a program. So that's where it starts, and we will keep talking about what are the other kind of best practices that we have adopted over here. But I wanted to put that ground rules very clear. It is easy and it is complex. It is complex when you don't understand anything about it and then just deep dive, take orders and do it. It is easy when you ingrain yourself in this entire process, when you give the opportunity to others, when you give the opportunity to yourself to understand business well, wherein you'll have to talk, you'll have to converse, you have to get the details. You have to be working hand in glove with the business before you actually roll out any kind of upskilling programs. That's my take on it. Can't hear you.
Sorry. Understood, doctor. It makes a lot of sense in the sense that, companies, when they approach it without any holistic understanding of why they are going to invest in this at all, it becomes a problem. I completely get it. Leading into, upskilling. Do you think that dealing into digital transformation, because these are integral parts, right? Do you feel that, upskilling can accelerate, digital ambitions of organizations? And as you said, the L&D team is an integral part. How can HR teams champion this sort of initiative in organizations? Because they are also hugely involved in the people part, of especially large conglomerates.
Yeah, it's not that HR is involved; it is HR driving it together with the business. So that
Understood.
it's totally a different ballgame over here. It's without the HR, without the learning and development, without the partnership with the business, any such kind of initiatives cannot roll out successfully. Right.
Understood.
Coming to the point of digital transformation, having said the current situations and given the situations that we are going through of this pandemic and other stuff, and even before that, it's time that we stop cheating ourselves that we are doing digital by just going online for some time, and the rest of the time we are still comfortable doing classroom kind of things. No, we
Understood.
have to definitely shift our gears and move from this modality of doing in-house kind of classroom trainings to digital platforms. Obviously, because of the scale, because of the availability, because of the flexi learning, because of the kind of population that we have in our organization. Gen Z has already entered into the organization, right? Uh, there are other kind of contract kind of employees whom we hire for their specialties. We have so many different variety of task force that operate. Some are perm, some are contract, some are just coming into as a specialization with specializations and practitioners. In order to ensure that the organization is growing, firstly, all of this task force that you have in the organization definitely needs to have a platform to learn. Digital only makes life simpler for us
Understood.
because the variety of courses that is available today in the market, irrespective whether it is Udemy, it is Pluralsight, it is Skillsoft, or it is many other kind of Coursera or LinkedIn kind of learning, there is no dearth of content today.
Understood.
Right? Therefore, accessibility to upskilling themselves or advancing their technical skills or advancing their other kind of experiential skills is not a challenge today. Purely because the digital transformation or the digital platforms have made things so very simple today. People can easily go, navigate, create their own learning paths, and do a lot more. So definitely, digital transformation only complements upskilling. Having said that, I want to put a cautionary over here. It doesn't mean that you have a platform in your organization and you make it open to the large mass and you say that upskilling is on. Definitely not. It is
Understood.
just one way or mechanism through which you are building your learning ecosystem. And the learning ecosystem is just enabling people to go do their learning, take whatever they want, have very structured, curated learning paths, or learn whatever they feel like, right? And that will establish your learning culture. That will enable your learning culture. But in order to have a very systematic approach to this digital learning and upskilling for that matter, it is the endeavor of learning and development team to ensure that they are very vigilant about how is this being used, what kind of reports and dashboards that you generate in order to provide insight to the business, to the learners, how do you make learning as a discipline in the organization, all of this. So you can't be saying or we can't wash off our hands yet by saying that, there is a digital learning platform in the organization, go and learn.
Understood.
No, it's our responsibility. Therefore,
Understood.
upskilling definitely is complemented by digital platforms, but the way you drive it, the way you bring, a process around it, the way you celebrate the success of learners, the way you motivate, the way you put challenges to them and create that pull factor within the organization to learning is only going to make either your digital or your upskilling a success in the organization.
Understood. Understood. But, I want to lead off like very simple questions from that particular point, Doctor. Like you said, that it's not, you can't just like fit it and forget it. Like you have to like have processes that encourage, motivate, and so on. Like, is there some specific advice, like one or two things that you can give to leaders who are attempting to sort of implement a successful program?
Yeah. So a couple of things. When I have developed upskilling programs in my past organization, which is which was an IT services organization. I'm developing an upskilling programming platform and entire gamut of things over here, frameworks in the new organization that I am into, which is a product organization. Apparently, both the sectors are doing learning, and it is important for them, and upskilling happens in both the areas. What is important for us to understand, for the L&D leaders or the L&D teams to understand? First, get the hang of the business, understand the projects, understand the diversity that are there in the projects. In product organizations, it will be a different ball game altogether. In services organization, it will be a different ball game altogether. Understand your business very well. That's the first thing. That's the first success mantra. If you don't know what is happening in different business units, if you don't know what are the product offerings that they have and what kind of technology jobs that they're doing, are they maintaining the project, are they developing the project, are they supporting the project, or are they developing applications and POCs, irrespective of whatever kind of role that they are performing. If you're not aware of these nuances as to what the unit is doing, what is their customer base, what kind of technologies they are operating on, what kind of product suites, etc., it will be very difficult for to develop any kind of upskilling framework. Number one. Two, partner with the business very solidly to understand. Be a part of their discussions. It's not only about a monthly review or a yearly review or a quarterly review that we do with them. It's important for us to be thick and thin with them in every processes for two reasons. One, that's how you learn the business lingo. Second, you make yourself intelligent and intellectual and increase your credibility. Third, whenever you do any kind of initiatives, not only upskilling, there could be n number of L&D initiatives that you want to run. If you have not established your credibility and rapport with the business, it will be very difficult for you to sell. So this is in our own interest. Technically, it is very important for you to partner with the business and understand what kind of technology landscape are we currently operating on. There would be a couple of things that we operate. That is the bread and butter kind of projects that we have in the organization going on. There will be very niche skills or future skills where the business wants to actually take a leap jump, and therefore the capability has to be built in that particular area. And then there are other kind of pieces where we want to venture into in order to offer new product suites or new kind of solutioning to our customers. So this will be three different buckets in which we operate generally, right? And therefore understand that. And baselining of the skill plays a very pivotal role. If you don't know that this is your task force or workforce, this is a stream that they're working on, these are the technology tracks, these are the product suites that they're operating on. If you don't know the baselining of it, you don't know their competency at their as-is level, it will not be possible for you to have any kind of upskilling program, because upskilling needs a vision. Where is that the business wants to go on? Maybe we are in 2019 and we want to go in 2020, what it will be, what it will look like. Today, the strategic plans don't go for 5-year plans. They are either 2-year plan or 1-year plan. And some businesses are so agile that they only want to make a plan for 3 months. Therefore, we have moved away from the process of doing an annual training need identification to a quarterly. Understanding the business is agile, and every time we have to be working very closely with them and understanding what would be their requirement, what becomes obsolete for them, what becomes very important for them, what are the future skills that they want to develop. So ad hoc things will keep coming, and we have to condition ourselves in order to support the business in that. Our learning and understanding in this area is very important. Therefore, unless and until you solidly understand what the business is doing. Having said this, many people, especially in the L&D track, feel that I'm not technically sound. How do I do that? Right? Or some of them say that, that is not my gamut. When you look at the L&D framework, there are some organizations which has everything under one bucket, like ours. I manage the entire India learning and development, and my team actually takes care of the domain process, domain part of learning, the process, the product, the leadership behavioral, and definitely the technology, which is the largest portion. There are some organizations which have very discrete divisions, leadership, OD, behavioral to be separate, and maybe the technology to be definitely different. There are some organizations will have product and domain also as a different compartmentalized kind of a structure. So structures differ from organization to organization. My only takeover here and my suggestion, my 2 cents of information to the entire fraternity who is attending this today is that whichever kind of organization, environment, and L&D functional, operational, structural way you are operating into, understand your role critically, understand the piece of work that is expected from you, and then ensure that you understand that portion of the business. If it is domain, you should understand the domain. If it is technology, you should understand the technology. When I say understand, today Google is there to help you with every single thing. All you need to know is English, and all you need is passion and presence of mind. When you go for any technology, need to be identified with the business also. If you do a little bit of your own research, understand where it is operating, have your own understanding, do fundamentals in those areas, and then go and talk to the business. I think it will be a different kind of leveling that you're trying to do. So that's where I come from. Some of the best practice, and some and one is only one, that you need to understand the business well. Keep yourself upgrading on the areas that you're working in your organization. Partner with the business thoroughly. Understand what is the technology landscape currently, what is the future skills required. Baseline the skills. And baselining definitely happens through some of the other kind of assessments. It is easy for people to say that I am at advanced level, I am at an intermediate level, or I am at a beginner level. Or it is also okay for a manager. I mean, we are not saying that those channels are closed. But systemically, there has to be a structured process to understand what is the organizational base looking like. Because when you have that prudent information, it becomes easy for you to plan upskilling programs, give them a direction, and that will motivate the learners. You can't just have a platform, tell them that, this is your next level, go and learn this in 6 months, come back and take an assessment. No, it is a very passionate job that L&D as a function has to do when you are getting into any kind of upskilling activity, irrespective whether it is behavioral, whether it is technology, whether it is domain. So that's a long answer to your question.
Yeah, it needed a long answer, Doctor. So, I'm going to lead into one thing that you touched upon in your answer itself, right? You were in the services company before. You led it in a large services company. Now you're in a large product-led organization. The question I wanted to ask is, how is upskilling within product companies different as opposed to IT, IT services companies that are generally, what we Indians have in our country?
The fundamental objective of upskilling still remains the same for both sectors of organization, irrespective of whether they are product organization or they are a services organization. The only difference that comes in one is the kind of technology upgradation that happens in IT services organization much fast. And when I say that, today if you have an Angular version 5, probably 2 weeks down the line, there is an updated version of Angular 7. Or if it was a Java version 1.2, today there is 8 coming in, and then people want to struggle between 7 and 8 and so on and so forth. So the technology keeps moving very fast. It is simply agile. And then the adoption rate of picking up technology also needs to be increasing at that moment, right? Because you have to keep yourself mapped to what's happening in the industry. So it's very fast-paced kind of an environment over there. I don't mean to say that product organizations are not fast, but then they have certain directions, certain technologies, and there is a kind of an ecosystem that is created. These are the products that we are going to develop. For these products, probably we are going to use more of this technology or these future skills. So that's the first difference. The second difference is when you do upskilling for a services organization, generally a services organization, generally, I don't mean to say that everybody would have it, but generally the services organization has something called as verticals and horizontals. All vertical units probably will fall under the same bucket or of more or less the same kind of technologies. The horizontals, which cut across all this business unit in services organization, it could be infrastructure, it could be testing, it could be many other kind of stuff which becomes horizontal, databases for that matter, etc. That database expertise, etc., or analytics expertise, etc., will cut across the verticals. Therefore, the upskilling skill taxonomy that you develop or the kind of map that you develop for this group of people would be slightly different. Okay, so it will be according to the unit, according to the kind of projects that you do, the technologies that you work on, and according to that, your skills have to be, kind of measured, assessed, and also given a next level of upskilling path for you, a learning path for you. When I come to a product organization, there is also a combination. There is something called as COEs, which cut across many units. So there is a testing COE, there is a BE COE, there is a analytics COE. There are multiple COEs that we have at Fiserv. They cut across many business units. But when we talk about product, right? So let me just give an analogy. In services organization, whatever we called as business units or verticals are equivalent to business units over here in the product organization as well. But they work on a specific set of products. So in Fiserv, we have around 670 different kind of financial products. They get developed, many of them, around 170 of them get developed here in India. And when they get developed over here, the kind of technology that you need to use in order to build, develop, maintain those suite of products and do any kind of enhancement to that products is totally different. So one unit might be having .NET and the second unit might also be having a .NET as a skill. But one unit might be working on .NET's X.0 version or an other kind of submodules of .NET. So probably the elective over there would be fundamentals of .NET, and the elective over there could be a CI/CD or a DevOps, or it could be cloud, etc. For the other unit, there may be same .NET technology that they are operating on, but the focus or the emphasis is more on probably UI technology, or maybe an overops, or maybe some other kind of a technology. So that's the kind of discrete variation that comes even between units to units as their product varies. So that's the basic.
Doctor.
And therefore, the skilling, the upskilling channel, the upskilling definition or the upskilling framework totally relies on a base document called a skill taxonomy. What is the skill taxonomy? You identify what kind of target audience you have in the organization. And this holds true for both the sectors. You identify what kind of organization, what kind of talent you have, what kind of work you do, what kind of skill sets, and what kind of job levels you have. And then you discretely look at your products. What kind of products do you actually operate on, and the technologies related to that. Then you define that in your skill taxonomy, if .NET is a track, or if Java is a track, or a mainframes or mid-range is a track, or a UI is a track, what will be the subsections of that each associate should know, at least at a fundamental level, and then according to his job level, the depth of that particular element or the submodule will keep changing. So skill taxonomy actually is the, it becomes the gospel's truth as it gets created, and that cannot be created only alone by an L&D function. It takes a village to do any such kind of a work. When I say village, I'm talking about business partnership. We had around 60 SMEs working together with us on a project that we currently initiated, and an entire skill taxonomy and skill taxonomy that we got ready. So this technical SMEs, partners like, skill assessment partners like Interview Mocha who have been working with us, the other kind of course providers like Coursera, Pluralsight, and Skillsoft who are working with us. Similarly, our expertise of L&D as a function to understand, put frameworks, and bring all of this to closure. So that's the reason I said that it takes a village to do any such kind of initiative, roll it out successfully. So that's the approach that one has to take in a very systematic way.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting answer, Doctor. So here's what we're going to do. I have one very important question for you, and we have a bunch of questions coming in from our participants as well. So a couple of the participants' questions are actually tied into what I wanted to ask. So I'm going to tie both of them together. But before we go on to that, there is one particular thing that I wanted to ask. At this point of time, we are going into, we're going through what is definitely a once in a generation event, and organizations, corporate organizations at all levels, let alone the ones that we are talking about, are trying to adapt to this particular, change in the way that we are living, let alone working, right? So how do you think about, the COVID-19 impact? Is it an accelerant? Do you see it as an accelerant, or do you think that it will just accelerate things that should have been done already, right? As one part, and if they're trying to implement these things fast, which some organizations are, right? What are the pitfalls they must avoid? What are the pits that they shouldn't fall into?
Sure. Talking about COVID, and I was yesterday on some panel, and I actually was, making this comment whether we should take COVID-19 as a boon or a bane for a number of reasons. Bane certainly because there are so many mishaps happening and people are losing their life, and it is very, very sad to know that. But boon because look at the kind of revolution that we have brought among ourselves, right? In terms of the adoption rate, in terms of the agility, in terms of the way we are, getting accustomed to new challenges every day. We are a social animal who want to go out, who want to kind of interact, have personal touches. But now the work still continues. We are progressively working on adapting to this new COVID situation. That only shows that human being is a super adaptable kind of phenomenon, right? Why don't we leverage to the best of our interest? While so many bad things are happening, so many unwarranted things are happening, people are losing their lives, etc. And that's certainly a very, very emotional breakdown for any human being. But at the same time, why don't we look at the other aspects of it? The way we are connecting today with our colleagues, the way kind of virtual hangouts that we're doing, the way people are spending time in looking at their interest hobby areas, the way people are looking at upskilling themselves. I can't tell you how much is L&D completely occupied during this phase. And you can ask my team members, the way we are rolling out programs, tech webinars, partnering with different kind of industry vendors. There are so many of our technology vendor partners, like RPS is one of them, Novel Vista is another of them, and there are many such people who have come forward and given us so many complimentary programs, webinars, etc. And then we are trying to roll them out. Nothing stops us from learning. Okay? Nothing stops us from living. Did we stop living in this kind of environment? No. Did we stop learning? No. Did we stop any other kind of stuff? Only things that we stopped, and that was only into the best interest, with the best interest to our own selves, is not going out and not being very social outside. But other than that, I think we are working almost 14 to 15 hours in a very relaxed manner. We are more productive.
Doctor, we can't hear you. I guess no, doctor. I think, are you on mute or something? Can you just...
No, no.
Yeah, now
Can you
we
hear
can
me
hear
now?
you. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. I meant to say that we have not stopped doing any of our normal routine work. In fact, we have doubled the productivity has doubled. The amount of work that we have done is doubled. Everything is doubled. So why should any such kind of initiatives which are going, which should be a part of, basically it has to be the DNA of an organization. You don't need to wait for an occasion that, oh, December is a lean period and I will start an upskilling program. But the strategy behind upskilling has to go from the beginning, and it has to be a part of your culture, basically, from the top until the bottom. The associate should know that they will get an opportunity to continuously grow, advance their careers, have job shifts, role shifts, and keep growing. The leader should know that they have to. Upskilling is a business imperative side. It's a business imperative.
Understood.
And therefore, it is not an one thing that upskilling is something which we want to bring as an initiative. It's no more an initiative. It's a norm. Therefore, answer to your question is, irrespective whether it is COVID or not, anyways, we are digitally adopting a lot of stuff. We are continuing to learn. We are continuing. If you want to do assessments, we are doing all assessments online in this situation as well. We are communicating enough. We are giving that hand-holding to and support. We are encouraging our people. We are celebrating our people for learning new things, completing certifications, going and doing some online hackathons, code warriors, etc.
Definitely.
So and that's the reason I'm saying that upskilling is a culture. It has to be a part. It has to be an integral part of an employee experience that you. Just like you have many other facilities, leaves, pay scales and appraisals, etc. Learning is an integral part of the employee life cycle, and they deserve to get this opportunity. And therefore, the organizations have to think in that way. So no COVID is going to stop this.
Right. So got it, doctor. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Now, this was actually the answer that I was looking for. Now, what I want to ask now, what happened is that there were a couple of questions that came in. Now we're going into the questions, but one of the questions that was asked by Razina, she has asked a very, very important question that actually ties into what we were actually going to ask you, right? Is that how are we going to measure success with upskilling? And what Razina did ask is, how an example of an upskilling program that you designed, and how you went about doing it. Now, if we can tie that to, how did you measure success with that? I think that would be a good question to answer. And we'd be interested.
Okay, sure. So the program that we are running at Fiserv has just been rolled out, and it is in the process of getting implemented in different pockets. But let me take the first one. Any initiative that we run at an org level cannot just be an initiative because I like it and I do it, right? Therefore, any kind of strategic initiatives such as upskilling, and upskilling definitely is a strategic initiative. The organization or the leadership team which sponsors you for this such kind of program will expect a result or an impact or a measuring, an effectiveness of this entire initiative. How has it helped the business to grow? How has it helped the business to scale up? how did it actually entail into some kind of a profitable issue for us? Now, it need not be monetary every time. Okay? So I believe in the saying what Peter Drucker always says, that anything that cannot be measured cannot be improved. Things that cannot
Right.
be measured cannot be improved. Then you simply
Right.
roll it out, and then you are happy about it that you have rolled it out. You're not bothered about whether people are taking, or you might take a level 1. Did you like it? Yes, no. On the scale of 5, you take it, right? But if you really want to do any such kind of important initiatives at your org level, the first thing that should come without even the business asking is, while I want to do this and this will be the objective of the program and this will be the end result, how will I measure the success of this? For us at Fiserv, we have taken a KPI that 100% of the target audience who are identified for this particular upskilling program will go through the base skill assessments by year 2020. And 15% out of that primarily will go to the next level. Let's be also very realistic over here. Getting people assessed at their as is skill level, is it doable? My answer to it is yes. We have deliberated it enough and then said 100% of the target population who have been identified for this particular upskilling program definitely can take a skill assessment at their as is level. We will support them with whatever learning ecosystem they need, and we will at least have a baseline. What will it entail us into? It will entail us into identifying what is the strength of our people, how can we actually mobilize and do talent fungibility with them. And the second is, if they identify the skill gaps, we give them an opportunity to work on those skill gaps, strengthen those skills and move forward to the next level. In this way, you're actually giving them an advancement kind of an option, a learning path, which is very focused. They are not, kind of diverged and all over the place. They know how to follow it and reach to a particular level. We also have given a facility of cross-skilling. If you feel that, this is something which you're doing great, you want to kind of divert and want to take a cross-skilling, we have those opportunities also open. So that's what we did here. If you ask me about the past experiences, we have rolled out a lot of programs such as Learnability Index, having upskilling programs, getting people who were visa ready but not able to travel because of capability was not there, and then how did we quickly pick that up and put them onto an upskilling program. Now, upskilling program can be a very holistic approach. It can also be incident-based approach. So when you see that there is a problem that has been identified with a business, how do you actually partner with them to understand, okay, if this is a problem, if you have US ready people and US visa ready people and they're still sitting in the pool, how do we actually, and they're not been able to absorb on, different kind of opportunities, that's because the different skills which they are not good at. How can we
Understood.
pick them, have a very robust program around that, train them and put them? We were very successful
Understood.
in doing that. At least around 38% of the population who was visa ready, we could actually train them, grill them, go through a lot of mentoring, and we could send them to the client for the client opportunity.
Awesome.
Right? Similarly,
Yeah.
one of the parameters that you can check is when you roll out such kind of programs, what are the different things that come into picture? Are you hiring externally when you're upskilling? That could be one of the measures, right?
Got it.
Are you able to do job rotation of people because of the new skills that you have given? Are you able to map the newly skilled people or the upskilled people onto opportunities that are already existing in your organization? There are multiple such things. Now,
Understood.
one point that I want to make, and I don't know what was the name of the lady who asked this question?
Razina.
Razina. So one input over here to Razina and to the others who are listening is, when you define a measuring parameter, it has to be a partnered approach. L&D is responsible for framing it up, making a framework, facilitating the process, ensuring the ecosystem is ready, understanding the business need and mapping it. L&D will also be responsible for driving these programs, giving updates to the business. But the business has to equally partner with you to see whether your people are skilling or not, whether they're going from one level to other. So that 15% and 100% that I spoke about, as much as it is me and my team's KRA, we have ensured, done and dusted, that this is going to be the KRA of the business as well. So they are also a party to it. Both of them have to be integratedly working together, without which this is not a possibility. So that's about some of the things that we have done. Learnability index was one of the biggest projects that we did. Find out how people are continuously skilling up, whether the recruitment channels or pipelines have gone low. Because we need to understand one thing: when you have to build in a competitive workforce, right? Upskilling definitely is important, and it clearly is a much affordable process as compared to hiring from outside.
Understood.
It's proven.
Awesome. Mm.
I hope I have answered
You
Razina's
have.
question.
You absolutely have. I think we'll see if Razina agrees. But I wanted to combine. Like we have three questions, Doctor. I wanted to combine like a couple of them because one in the interest of time, and I think that there is like similarities in the question. So Neha is working in a healthcare organization, and they have consultants, but they want to figure out how to design upskilling programs for them. And there's Aman, who's in microfinance institution, which is like two different aspects. Like there's healthcare and there's microfinance, and he also sort of has the same question: what should be the changes in the L&D team, and what changes should they make in this tough time?
Okay, so I go back to the point that I made, and this is exactly what I was trying to bring in. You could be a product organization, you could be a pharma organization, you could be a manufacturing sector, you could be a services sector. Upskilling still is the fundamental thing when it comes to talent that is there in the organization. Without talent, the organization cannot. Without talent, the client cannot be happy. If the client is not happy, the organization is not going to succeed. Right? So, to Aman and also to the other person that you spoke about, Neha, as much as you know that you want to do upskilling or have a learning path for your people, understand what are their current roles, what is the current job that they are doing. You have to talk to their respective leaders to understand what is a job rotation or job role or upskill, path for them. What is a growth path for them? So, especially when such kind of, in this kind of IT services and product organizations, the ballgame is totally different. We have enough channels where we know that we can actually mobilize the talent or have different paths. But in such kind of an environment where there could be a possibility of limitations, it is very important for you to understand and talk to your leadership team as to this is a group of people. Some of them are at different job levels. Some of them perform different kind of roles. What is the next level for them? One is you research for yourself and talk to your fraternity equivalent in the industry. See, your ecosystem has to be very strong, Aman and Neha, to understand what's happening in the industry in the same sector that you are in. Also taking inputs from cross sectors, okay, and then see how that can actually be fitted in your organization. So understand how many of these people are there, what kind of different roles do they play, what is their current, what is their current skill, what is the possibility of their advancement of the skill, and to what level, what will be that next level of skill advancement for them. So as much as you can actually have a complete understanding of this, then you can either design programs, have internal pool of people to deliver some things of that, or you can actually get external vendor partners to do that. I mean, needless to say, I'm sure you will be doing that. But understand the holistic picture of their roles and what does the projects entail into, how is the organization growing, what skills will help them to grow and also help the organization. That homework has to be thoroughly done.
Got it. Awesome. Okay, so we have we are running out of time, so I just want to like squeeze in one question. There's a question from Abhay. Abhay, we'll try to answer it right after we get the answer from the doctor and send it over. But this is something, the question from Neha Kulkarni, which is something that's close to us at Interview Mocha, because we are a company that don't just have like tech skills, like we cater to a lot of business skills, including something that we just released called, we are very proud of, called the English Pro, which is sort of our English, competency test. Something that most organizations now look for and don't have, but and they're trying to test on it. And so how do you think about this differently when the focus changes from tech to more business skills, right? For example, a sales team, and this is quite important to us also because as a product company, Interview Mocha is also trying to figure out, like, for example, if I'm interviewing somebody for, my sales head's sales team, and he's saying, Sai, go and figure out if this person has the skill needed to go and like speak to the customer point blank or not. Now, I don't know how to measure it. Now, how do we think about these business skills, Doctor?
Interesting. And I was about to touch this because many of you would be actually doing business skills, leadership, ODs, and behavioral skills. Especially in sales organization and other places, at least this has some room and you can throw up this kind of programs. In services and product organization, the bread and butter being technology, first talk to them about technology. Uh, the behavioral, the soft skills, the business skills always takes a secondary stage. It gets a step treatment. Honestly speaking, it gets a step treatment. The
Yeah.
way I have worked with organizations and what has been successful for me is that first help the business to solve the low hanging fruits and the things that are closer to them.
Understood.
And the more you are actually partner to them and you observe how this is operating, you then start pushing it smaller modules of behavioral skills. You know what? If your BA is a super BA and technically he is very strong as a business analyst, but if he doesn't have a customer centricity or if he doesn't know how to have customer communication skills, he's not going to be a great BA. And then you push your communication kind of a module to him so that, oh, this is not going to be long. See, basically, people are afraid of behavioral skills for two, three things. One is that many of them say that we can do the training, but how much will it change the behavior of the person is a big question mark. So
Got
they
it.
ask such kind of rhetoric questions. Second is that they don't realize that if you don't do it, what could be the larger loss? I mean, you can't be just technically sound, and therefore, learning and development is primarily supposed to talk about holistic development of associates. You can't be only a tech savvy person. You definitely also need to have customer facing. If not, you're facing him, in person or visual, but at least on the call, the impact that you make on the call to the customer also plays a very important role. So
Right.
that therefore, when you're going to for tech organizations, product organizations, first do what they need. Help the business to solve the business problems first. Make them happy by giving that, because that's bread and butter. It's not about making them happy. The business has to survive, and therefore technology skills are always given they are dominating, and the other skills get secondary treatment or a step treatment.
Understood.
You push the things appropriately. When you start see multiple things happen, and I'm talking about this and reviewing whatever I spoke in the beginning. You have
Mm-hmm.
to establish your credibility. You have to establish your rapport with the business. You need to know the pulse of the business. This comes with a lot of interaction. Then you start slowly addressing their low hanging fruits or the things that are closer to their heart. Once you do that, you are already having a seat on the table. And then now say that, you know what, this is half cooked. You should reach that stage where you can defend and tell that if you don't do this piece of business skill, it's not going to have life for long. You
Understood.
have to reach
Understood,
that
doctor.
stage. You can't just be saying that, hey, I know that you want a technology skill, but you know what? I have a KRA of completing leadership programs, and you definitely need to do that. Nobody's going to make you stand. Same goes with the other kind of sectors of sales organization, etc. Sales organizations, yes, sales, negotiation skills, etc., will play very, very important role in that associate's profile. At the same time, it's surrounding business acumen, strategy of the organization, maybe other business skills, communication skills, pursuing skills, or crucial conversations could be a backup. Work with the business in a way where you're saying that I'm going to solve your business problem and then support with your business skills. That has worked for me because in multiple of my profile of 22 years of experience, I never had got the chance of only dealing with either behavioral or L&D. And I feel myself to be, I think I'm fortunate enough to get that entire plethora or gamut of things that to be working, irrespective of when I was working abroad or when I was working in my last organization, which was in services organization, and my current organization, which is in product.
Awesome. That was a really good answer, doctor. It helps me
If you
to
don't
think through.
mind, I just
Yeah,
want to
sure, sure, sure.
quickly address Abhay's
Yeah,
question.
yeah, absolutely. I was going to come to that.
Okay.
And this is, and what I was also thinking, if you could spend time on the career growth thing also, doctor, because, as you also, we spoke about this before we came to the webinar itself about how young professionals also want to figure out how to move ahead because, you
Correct.
are a person with this much experience. Now they also want to see one part is, of course, being part of huge upskilling, initiatives across organizations. And how does that help them? Also, the people, they are upskilling. How does it help with that career growth? Is it? I think that's a really good question that, we can't ignore that. You have to answer it. Yeah.
Correct. So I'll just read that. How are you looking after cross-skilling against upskilling? And how can you link upskilling with career growth? Okay. Uh, there is a very thin line between cross-skilling and upskilling. Cross-skilling could also be upskilling. But for example, if you're a sales professional, and then you are asked to cross-skill and get into a comp and then or some other area for that matter, or customer centricity purely and not sales, then that is cross-skilling. In technology terms, if you're a .NET professional and you're being asked to jump onto maybe a mainframes or a different UI technology skill altogether, or maybe something which is totally different, which is not your track of technology. For that matter, cross skilling also is, you are a Java professional and you have to actually get skilled on .NET. Now, why cross skilling comes into picture? Cross skilling is totally dependent upon the portfolio that the organizations carry, the kind of projects that comes, the business that is coming, and it may so happen that the organization predominantly is a .NET shop, but now they are seeing that there is a lot of traction happening in UI, mainframes, and Java kind of technology. Therefore, one easy thing for the organization to do is lay off and get new talent. But generally, organizations go for this cross-skilling kind of thing. Let's look at the the people, the closest adjunct or adjacent skills that people hold, and how can we actually cross-skill them and make them more, kind of operational, not operational basically. How can we actually give them opportunities on those upcoming project opportunities that we are getting from the business? Okay. So, for example, in Fiserv, we have mainframes, mainframes kind of track people, mainframes technology, tech staff. Uh, while we are a fintech industry and mainframe will continue to remain, but what is the opportunity that we are giving to these people? So we thought that Vision Plus is a new product suite that is coming, which is used generally for cards, etc., and for cards related payment sectors. And then we thought that let's pick up these people who are interested. We will cross skill them on Vision Plus as a product training, and then take them to the next level because the fundamental skills are same. The same goes, and now to talk about upskilling. Upskilling is that you are at a particular level and the depth of a technology. You want to go to the next level. So, for example, you are an associate, you get a professional, you become an analyst, and then thereafter you become a lead. From the lead, you have two tracks. Either you can become an architecture or you can become a project manager. Now, generally, if you are a techie guy, you will choose to become an architect after lead. That is the upskilling roadmap. Career growth happens in both the ways. Okay. Now that depends upon how solid you pick up the skills, how much do you implement it, what kind of role. And therefore, I go back to one important point. While we talk about upskill, it is a very conscious and dedicated decision that organizations have to take, because you may bring in upskilling. Tomorrow, if the projects do not come, what are you going to do with those people who are upskilled? Therefore, the business leaders also have to take a very, very candid and exclusive decision around what are the opportunities that we're going to provide to these people who are upskilled or cross-skilled. So that ties together. And L&D actually can facilitate that process. We have to start asking very, very, very powerful questions, very defensive questions. So be it. Okay, fine, we are going to upskill 100 people on this particular technology, but what's the road ahead for them? We are empowered to ask those questions. It's just a matter of we asking it right. So that's about cross-skilling and upskilling. Both has career growth. When the projects come, you can mobilize. Sometimes the complacency of the person or the associate also kills him or stops him from doing an upskilling or a cross-skilling. I'm fine over here. I'm doing very well, and I don't have any challenges. I don't want to take them. Leave those breed of people. They cannot be a part of your upskilling journey. I hope I have answered the question a bit.
Right. Thanks, Doctor. I think we were like running out of time by the time we got here. Firstly, at this point of time, I want to tell the participants, whoever is attending, that we are going to send you the transcript of the entire thing. Don't worry about whether you're taking notes or not taking notes or so on and so forth. You'll get the transcripts of the entire thing. And also, what we'll do is we'll send you a couple more important stuff right after. And as you can see on your screen, if you have more questions, just reach out to us and tell us more stuff at marketinginterviewmocha.com. We'll help you get those answers from the doctor as well. Damin, do you want to say something before summing up? Yeah.
I would just like to add to what you said. I would like to thank all of our attendees for coming and joining us today, and especially Dr. Sonal for sharing all your insights with us. As mentioned, please reach out to us if you all have any questions. We would love to connect with Dr. Sonal again, and perhaps have another session coming up.
Yeah, because we couldn't get all the questions done. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting, and thanks for being a patient listener. I only want to say the life script is keep learning, unlearning, and introspect. Try to learn as much as possible. There is no dearth of information, content. Think about what strategies you want to do. L&D has a very powerful role to play in the transforming days to come. And currently, also, we have a seat at the table. It's very important for us to pack that opportunity, lead from the front, and be completely business oriented. Equip yourself with all the business skills required. That's all from me. Thank you so much.